Okay, I'll start again. My name is Newberry, and my company is Smooth Transitions of Massachusetts. What we do is we help people who are in the process of downsizing, decluttering, and moving with all the aspects of what to do with your stuff. So we don't help you pick a new place to move. We don't help you decide that when you're going to move, but once you've made that decision or once you have that thought in the back of your mind, we are able to help you with everything else related to stuff. And on that topic, so I like to call this topic stuff, love it or leave it. We'll get a little further in the talk and I'll tell you that there's really not a lot of decisions to be made. It's basically, do I keep it or do I not keep it? But how you go about making the decision and how you go about looking at everything and the frame of reference you're using is critical in deciding how to get you to fit your belongings in a smaller living space. So I'd like to do an icebreaker to get everyone in the mood. So we can either do it where you stand up or you can raise your hand. But if we start off with like everyone raising their hands, you get exercise too in this. And so keep your hand in the air if every set of dishes you have in the house has had 4 place settings out of the cabinet at least 2 times in a year. So do you use all the different style dishes you have, or do you basically stick with one set? So the question is, again, keep your hands in the air if your dishes see the light of day at least 2 times a year for every set you have in the house. Okay, we have a few. That's good. Okay. Raise your hand if you know what everything is and does in your junk drawers. Okay, we got a few there too. Raise your hand if you only have 1 month's worth of magazines in your house. Okay. Raise your hand if you have VHS and cassette tapes in your house and you actually have a machine that can watch them or listen to them. All right. And I mean, a lot of this is just getting you thinking about how technology has changed and how the world has changed. Gift wrap. People have transitioned more towards using the bags. You know, you just throw a piece of tissue paper in, throw the item in the bag and hand it as a gift. But a lot of people still have all that gift wrap paper. So raise your hand if you have enough gift wrap paper in your house to offer free services at Christmas. You know how you go places and they offer to wrap your gift? And then the last one, which usually knocks out almost everybody, is raise your hand if everything in your closet fits. Okay, good. Well, we've got some people that have thought about downsizing and decluttering and kept a bit of a control over what's in our home. And that's really the question. When we refer to stuff, the minute you start calling it stuff means it has less importance to you. You know, it's not your dishes anymore. It's not your books on your bookcase, your umbrellas. It's your stuff. It typically means you've gotten to the point where there's quite a bit of it and you're not using it on a frequent basis. So, next question is, who do you think should be reviewing everything in their house? The choices are people moving to a bigger home, people moving to a smaller home, or people staying in their current home. You want to?
All of the above.
Okay. True, everybody. There's always something in your house that beyond a shadow of a doubt you know you're never going to use again, you don't need, or it's taking up space that you could put something else that you want to hang on to. So it's never too early to begin saying goodbye to things. I tell people when you buy something new, try to say goodbye to 2 things or 3 things, and then that way you'll never run into the overabundance that a lot of people run into. If you do the sorting now instead of 5 days before a move, you have time to think about it, you have time to reminisce, and you also have time to go through things more than once, because once you get your mind wrapped around less, a lot of times you'll look at things that you said, oh, I have to keep it, and suddenly it doesn't seem to be that important anymore, and you're able to say goodbye to it. And last on this list, which is one of the most important, is make the decisions now while you're the one making the decisions. It's heartbreaking when we run into situations where a family will call us up and say, we're moving mom or we're moving dad, and they're coming out of rehab and they have to be moved in a couple weeks. And who is going to be making the decisions about what is moving? It's not going to be mom or dad. It's going to be the children who will look and say, oh, I never liked that. Well, it might be your favorite chair. Or, oh, mom doesn't wear nice clothes. She only wears sweatpants. So now you want to dress up and there's nothing in your closet. So make the decisions while you're in charge. Stuff happens. Suddenly, under your bathroom counter, you have 17 toothbrushes, because every time you change to a new clean toothbrush, you said, well, I might need that to clean the grout. Or, that corner in the side of the sink, I use a toothbrush to get to that. Well, you can use the same toothbrush for all those things. You don't have to have a toothbrush for each purpose. Kitchens and bathrooms, a lot of things are collected in kitchens and bathrooms because we spend a lot of time there. There's a lot of things that you might use once or twice and then forget it's in there. Sometimes you forget to the extent that you go out and buy new because you forgot you had leftover from the last time you used it. Attics and basements. How many people have attics? How many people frequent the attic? Okay. Most of the time the attic is where you put the things that you think you might need to hang on to someday, but you don't know how frequently you're going to need it. So you tuck it away there, or you put it in your basement. The same with cars and garages. I'll give a statistic coming up about cars that you might find interesting. What you're trying to avoid now and in the future is the, oh my goodness, shove it in the closet, quick, shut the door before anything comes crashing down on me. This is something I ran across and I thought it was kind of humorous. There are ideas of how to hide things in the house in plain sight when you run out of storage space. But not too many people nowadays use furniture skirts. So, in the average American home, they did a study, and there's over 300,000 items in the house. Now, that does include, staplers, rubber bands, paper clips, pairs of socks, underwear, but 300,000 is a big number. They took homes from around the world and they had everyone take whatever was in the home and put it out on the front lawn, and a photographer took pictures of it. And Japan and the United States had the most items. There were some third world countries that you would see 3 generations of family with like a sofa and 3 chairs, and that was pretty close to everything that they had in their house. So there is a wide variety of in-betweens between 300,000 items and having nothing. Here's an example of what some people do. They say, well, I'll just wait and I'll let the kids deal with it. I don't want to have to face it now. Well, I can just guess what that son's face is saying. I'm sure he's overjoyed that his father has saved all this for him. Since we were looking at the garage, 25% of people with 2-car garages can fit neither car in the garage. 35% can fit 1 car in the garage. So how many of you have garages and can fit as many cars in the garage as the garage is designed for? And has it always been that way all through your life in houses?
Yeah.
Great. Closets are another thing. The average American woman in the 30s had 8 outfits. The average American woman nowadays has 30 outfits. 30 outfits means you can wear a different outfit every day and not have to do laundry. More than 30 outfits, you know where I'm going. And a lot of the outfits you're not wearing so frequently that, you probably wake up and say, oh, I'm going to put on this, or I'm going to put on that because that's my favorite. And there are things in your closet that probably have a slight layer of dust on them because of the infrequency of pulling them out. Last interesting fact is that we spend 153 days of our life searching for things. That's a half a year. A little less than a half a year. And phones, keys, glasses, and paperwork top the list. I'm sure there's not one of you in here that haven't put your glasses down or put your phone down or put your keys down and 5 minutes later can't find where you put them. All right, so now to the nitty-gritty. What, where, and how do we begin? Well, the when is yesterday. It's never too early to start. I'll grace this side of the room now. The sooner you start, the sooner you have time to really ponder what it is that you're heading towards and your lifestyle and what you need for that lifestyle and whether you need things. It also helps with the stress level. If you're moving in 3 days, your stress level is like here. If you're starting 3 months ahead of time to go through the house and decide what you're doing, your stress level is going to be a lot less because you have the time to think about it. The catch-22 that some people get into is, I have the time to think about it. And each day they say, but I have the time to think about it. So you have to think and act simultaneously to reduce the stress level. When you sell your house, you have 30 to 60 days, and it's mostly 30 days, between someone signing on the dotted line saying they're going to buy your home and when you have to leave. If you're in a rental situation, a lot of places say they want to have 60 days advance notice. So that's the kind of time frame that if you wait until that point in time, then you're in panic mode. You're like, I just sold my house. What do I do now? Where do I go? How do I do it? Or, okay, I told them I'm not going to be renting in 2 months. I have to leave. I've been here 10 years, 15 years. I didn't realize how much was in the closet or under the bed or in the drawers. So again, start early, end happy. Where to begin? I suggest to people that they begin in the room that you use the least. That way, you kind of are getting in the hang of things, and at the same time, you're looking at things that you rarely look at and things you rarely use. So hopefully that means you have an easier time saying goodbye to those things. Usually the formal living room or the music. The formal dining room or the living room. When we were kids, we would have company over and the company would use that room. But we weren't allowed to use the room. It had the slip covers on the sofa, which I thought came with sofas until I had a house of my own. But it's also the room that is least likely to have things in it that you're going to take to your new space. It's probably the room that you could lop off the house and not notice it being absent. So it's a good place to start. This is the example of someone's dining room. This was an actual client. It was February when I went in, and she said, "Oh, please excuse me. I haven't had a chance to put the Christmas decorations away." Believe it or not, most of those are related to Christmas. But there were gifts under the table that never got given out because she forgot she had them. There's a piano in there that you might not be able to see. Towards the end, I'll show you the after picture, and you'll see what you're missing now. But, it collects without you knowing it. So what I tell people is, set aside 1 to 2 hours. Start small. In that 1 to 2 hours, though, you're going to seriously set a timer, go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, eat a snack ahead of time, leave your phone in the other room, and when you start the timer, you're going to go into that area, and you're not going to leave it under any circumstances. Because if, let's say, you're in the area and you say, oh, this piece of paper belongs in the other room, I'll just go take it there. Are you ever going to get back to the area that you started? No. On the same note, I jokingly say to people, most people would rather clean their bathrooms with a toothbrush than spend time decluttering. I like to equate it to eating an elephant. When you look at the elephant, it's this big, giant thing. The thought of taking the last bite is so far beyond imagining that you just look at it and say, ah! But one step at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 bite at a time, and you can get to the end. 2 decisions. It's not rocket science. 2 main decisions. Keep or goodbye. Now, a lot of times people say, well, but I might want to donate, I might want to sell it. Well, those are still goodbye. Let the details of the goodbye happen after you make the keep or goodbye decision. Now, there is a third category that I mention, but I don't put in writing because you don't want it to be a big category, and that's I can't really make a decision on that right this minute. You'll go back to those things. Again, keep or goodbye. Have a plan on how you're going to identify things. You can have boxes. You can have your keep box, your goodbye box. You can have your, oh, my kids said they wanted that box. Great, that's a goodbye, and when the box is full, they can take it away with them. But you need to have a system. You could use Post-it notes. You could use green for going with you and red for goodbye. You could have friends come in and shop in the goodbye pile. And, you can gift to them that way. You can have your family come in and you can tell them, okay, here's your color, put it on everything, and here's the date you have to take it out of here. You need a plan and a system. What you don't want to have happen is you spend your hour to 2 hours, you get through a whole room, you're so proud of yourself, and then you go, was blue keeping or goodbye? If you start with the big items first and then go to the small items, you'll get a much better sense of accomplishment. If you say, I decided on all the furniture in my hour, and then the clock dings and your time is up, well, you decided on all the furniture. That was a big decision. If you decided on one section of one drawer in that same hour, you're not going to feel quite as accomplished. And so what you're trying to do is you're setting yourself up for success, and you're setting yourself up so you want to do it again, and you want to spend that next hour. So start with the big things, and then once you know the destiny of the big things, you can tuck away the small things on the shelves and in the drawers so that you know what's what and you have the space to store it, and you can move things from other rooms into there as time provides. I can't emphasize it enough. Do not leave the room during that time period. Most people underestimate how much time it's going to take. You're not going to say, okay, I'm going to declutter my kitchen and then have the girls over for lunch. Not going to happen. You can dream it, you can wish it, but it's not going to happen. And the emotional toll that decluttering takes is also something you have to keep in mind. When you go and you take an exercise class, you don't take the same exercise class every day because at the end of the week, you're exhausted. When you're talking about making emotional decisions about keeping things and looking over things you might not have seen in a while, you need to let your emotions recover. So I tell people, you have an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours that you're working on it, and then give yourself a day to recover. Treat it as if it is a physical exercise, because it's an emotional exercise, and it will help you to keep going if you give yourself that recovery time in between. Another big point, you are not a storage facility. I want to hear everyone say that. I am not a storage facility. That was actually a picture in a client's basement. They had 3 apartments for 3 of their children completely in their basement on racks and cabinets because their children were not in permanent locations yet. And then they had to move. Not the children, the parents. So the problem became much more complicated because we had 3 apartments in addition to the house to deal with. You need to explain that, yes, you've kept it here for the past 25 years, but now it's time to either take it, say goodbye to it, or if you really want it and don't have the space for it, get yourself a storage unit and make the arrangements to move it. Mom and dad don't always have to foot the bill for it. Use your good stuff. If you have a set of china that you love, but it only comes out once a year at Thanksgiving or twice a year on holidays, but you really, really love that china, use it every day. So what if you put it in the dishwasher and the silver on the edge comes off? Who cares? You're enjoying it. You know, the sterling, my mom said, I'm going to use this for my everyday. And she puts it in the dishwasher. You know, they tell you all these things about don't put it next to the stainless, it'll tarnish, it'll do this, it'll do that. Yeah, but what's it doing in a drawer in a closet under a box to hide it so no one's going to take it? You know, if it's way up on the shelf or it's under your bed, you're not enjoying it, so you might as well enjoy it. Have your friends come over and get their next birthday present from your dining room. Or wrap it up and give it to them. You know, offer stuff to your friends, family, ask them what they want. You can get joy out of seeing them enjoying something that you might have had a connection with or an emotional attachment to. And this way, while you are able to share it with them, you can hear stories and enjoy it. On the flip side of that, be prepared to hear no thank you. I have some pictures here that summarize this. Now you can see the daughter's thrill in hearing that she's going to get all of this. Times have changed. The younger generations want the disposables. They don't want the fancy things that you have to hand wash, you have to polish, you have to be very careful with. They want it to be quick, we entertain, we clean up, goodbye. So, you know, a lot of people say, oh, but I have this beautiful china. Can you sell the china for me? And I look at them and I say, no. You know, certain colors, certain styles, yes, but, you know, how are you going to feel if I sell your service for $12 for $35? You know, there's a difference between selling something and recouping your investment. And most people, when they want to sell something, they feel recoup their investment. It's not because the china is hideous or damaged or ugly. It's because the current population is not wanting it and using it. When it comes to furniture, the bigger the furniture, the harder it is to find a new home for it. They want it to come flat in a box, some assembly required. It'll last for about 5 years. When they're ready to move, rather than move with a moving company, they just toss it and buy something new that comes flat in a box, some assembly required. That's the trend. That's what IKEA marketed so successfully, and that's why they're still in business. Large china hutches, if you can find someone to take it, that's a gift. Even the donation places that are furniture banks, they might take the bottom half because you can use it for clothing, but they don't take the top half because if you're coming out of being homeless, you really don't need a place to show off your fine china. Clothing. You know, I don't know about you, but I used to have a basket where I'd put the socks that had a hole in it and the pants that the zipper broke and I would walk past that basket every time I walked into my closet, and the basket would be throwing me a guilt trip. Fix me, I'm here, I'm collecting dust, or pair me up. There's got to be a matching sock somewhere that doesn't have a hole in it. I finally broke down and said, you know, I'm never going to get around to fixing this. So I said goodbye to it, and now I can go in and out of my closet guilt-free, except for those clothes that don't quite fit. So, you know, if you're in the same boat, be honest with yourself. Are you really going to fix the items that have rips and tears and are falling apart? If the answer is yes, then fix them now. If the answer is no, then say goodbye to them, because Otherwise, it's just sitting there. It could be a trip hazard, it could be collecting dust, it could just be guilting you every time you go past. Things that you have attachments to that are too big to take with you, take a picture of it. If it was your great-grandmother's buffet, but you know you're never going to take it with you, take a picture of it, and then you can take the picture with you and remember that way. Pictures. Nowadays, the trend is you take the pictures on your phone or digitally. It doesn't take up any space at all. But most people who are in their 50s and above have photo albums, have creative memories that they made scrapbooks out of. They have all sorts of things that take up space that aren't looked at very often. One thing, instead of digitally preserving, because that can get expensive, I recommend, first off, getting all the fall foliage pictures out, because, surprise, surprise, every fall in Massachusetts, the leaves turn colors. And if your children or grandchildren are anything like mine, we would go on vacation, my daughter would be, oh, it's a cute dog, take a picture of the doggy. It's a turkey, take a picture of the turkey. We had pictures of every animal you could imagine. We didn't even know why we took the pictures, except she thought they were cute at the time. That's not really something that I need to save into my twilight years. Another thing that my mom started doing is she's deconstructed her photo albums, divided them up among the grandchildren, and she sends them stacks of pictures. And when they get the pictures, it starts a conversation. They'll be talking about, oh, Mom, you looked so young, or Grandma looked so young. And it gives a give and flow, and then my mom feels that she's done justice to the pictures, and if they decide to throw them out, that's on them. But she did as best as she could do for that stack of pictures that she sent out. And so it's a feels good all the way around, and now she doesn't have a room full of photo albums. Just an idea. Again, small chunks of time, and do not leave the room while you are working in it. It makes a big difference. And if you just try it for an hour and a half, you'll be amazed to see how much you can accomplish when you're focused and you're not distracted. The other part of it is asking for help. It's not an easy activity. You want to find help that's not judgmental. I couch that on saying, there's family and friends that can help, and I'll get to that in the next, but it's easiest if you can share the story one more time to say goodbye to something, or if you can get stuck on something while the person you're working with can keep moving you along, so you have time to reminisce, but you're also making progress at the same time. The three main categories of people who can help: there's family, that has its pros and cons. Family often knows all your hot buttons and you know all their hot buttons. And often family members have their own agenda. They know what they think you should be taking, and they know how they think your lifestyle should be, and they know what they think works and doesn't work for you. So if you're comfortable putting your foot down and saying, I'm the one moving, I'm the one living in this space, and so if I want to take this, I'm going to take this, great. Family is a great option, but family also gets busy with other things. And so, depending on if your children have children, or busy jobs, or live far away, it's going to impact how much help they can give you. Friends are great. I tell people, invite your friends over to go through closets. They can comment, oh, Jane, I have not seen you wear that outfit, and I've known you for 22 years, and you've never worn that shirt. And you can say, fine, fine, I'll get rid of it. But then the next week you go to their closet. So you get the payback. And you both get closets that have less stuff in it and more likely items that you're going to wear going forward. The other benefit of friends is that, you can bounce ideas off each other, and friends are free. So that's another reason to use friends. Senior move manager, I gave you each a sheet of paper to explain what a senior move manager is, but putting another way in the process, it's someone who, because you're hiring the senior move manager, it's someone who works on your schedule. You can still go to your yoga class. You can still go to play canasta with your friends. You can still go out to lunch. They work on your schedule. They work with you. And because they have the experience in doing this day in and day out, they're able to talk you off the cliff whenever you're in panic mode, whenever you're saying, I can't decide. I need this. I have to have this. They can have a conversation with you and say, well, okay, I realize that your wedding dress is important to you, but are you expecting to wear it again? Do you want to make it into a wall hanging, or can we use the veil to make a light fixture or something? They can have conversations with you that can make you laugh, can keep you moving forward, and can also kind of wrap reality around, saying, oh, well, we've, in the last, 10 years of working with clients, we haven't had anyone that really did anything substantial with their wedding dress. So things like that. Also, when you work with a professional, they will know what things are pertaining to your lifestyle and your move. They know the sequence of events. They know that, you don't have to panic about finding a mover. You don't have to panic about unpacking. What you need to focus on is just goodbye and keep. And they can help you with that. So, and treating you like a family member, like a loved family member. I have to put that in there because not all families are harmonious. And, it's important to have someone treat you with dignity and respect and listening to what it is that you want. So the key is you can get through all the downsizing, the decluttering, and decision-making. These are the 3 top things. Start early and end happy. The sooner you begin, even if you're not thinking of moving anytime soon, the more space you'll have, the more ease you'll have in making future decisions, and the more appreciation you'll have for what the process entails. You want to keep stuff moving, and you want to ask for help as necessary. And this is that same room after we were finished. The piano is exactly where it was in the first picture. We did change. There was let's see, I think I have there we go. So there was a little bookcase here that we moved that was blocking some of the view. This item was way over here, so we moved it. We took the curtains off the wall, and we took the rug up, which you couldn't even see that there was a rug there in the first picture anyway. So this was the after picture, and we apparently did such a good job that someone walking along the street came in and said, can we make an offer on the house to the family before it was even on the market? And the family ended up negotiating with them and ended up selling it to them. There was a lot of give and take because the first price they offered was ridiculous, and the family pushed back and said, no, we know what it's worth and we know how tough it is to get this. But, the house was in beautiful condition. And the important thing too is, it's relationships and the activities that you do that is giving you the pleasure in your life. The possessions, the things, the belongings that collect over time, they represent those relationships, they represent that, but it's not as important as the relationships themselves. So you really want to be able to move forward, making the connections, the family, the friends, and not have to be so wrapped up in how much stuff do I have and what am I going to do with it. This is my little advertisement. We can help. This kind of sums up what I was saying about and this is how you want to end up. So I'm sure you probably have some questions about maybe what to do with the goodbye pile, and I'm happy to answer that. But that pretty much sums up, how to get to where you need to be. And question?
Yes. Not a very, I find it very reassuring. You haven't used it in 2 years. Try to use it. And that's an acid test for it.
That's true. That's true. Oh, it wasn't really a question. It was more a comment that if you haven't used something for 2 years, it's a good indicator that you're probably not going to use it again moving forward. So it's kind of an easy way to decide, but sometimes it's not quite so easy to remember that you haven't used it in the last 2 years. Question?
Can you just go over one more time? Photographs, what is your suggestion doing with all the photographs?
So there's a couple things you can do with photographs. One thing that I tell people is an option is if you have a grandchild who's like in the 10 to 12 age range, have them snap pictures of the pictures with their phone, and then you'll have it digitized. That's the least expensive way to get it digitized because, you're having some time with your grandchild and they're doing something that helps you reduce the quantity of pictures. So that's one option to do with it. You can digitize them. There are services out there that do that. They're not inexpensive, though. It comes to being, it's like, 35 cents per picture, something like that. So you can imagine if you have 3,000 pictures, it adds up. The other thing that I had suggested was what my mom was doing, and she was basically taking the pictures and dividing them up among the grandchildren and sending them to them. And that way, the pictures were being moved on in the family, and if there was conversation to be had, they can have the conversation on what the pictures are and who they are and ask any questions. So those were the top three. Yeah, the give and take area is, yes, so the give and take area, the Wellesley dump, is an excellent place to take things to. The only caveat there is you have to have a car and you have to be able to carry whatever item it is. So if you had a sofa, it's right, but you wouldn't be taking a sofa there or a dresser there because it's large. Yeah, small stuff. Yeah.
A lamp?
Yep. But let me get the lady in the back. Yeah, there's a lot of social media options. Oh, so the comment was that the Wellesley Give and Take Facebook page is also a good place to connect in order to part with things. And Facebook is a good place to do it, whether it's on Marketplace or on one of the different local sites. There's also an online site for generally giving things away that's an email site rather than a Facebook site. The catch with those, and what we've experienced on Facebook, is you get a lot of people that just ask questions back and forth. And so sometimes you have to get to the point where you say, okay, it's on the driveway, whoever comes by first gets it, have a great day. And so it depends on how comfortable you are with using Facebook and how comfortable you are with having people you don't know coming to your house to pick things up. So that's part of the big picture of it. But it is, nowadays we have many, many options for saying goodbye to things. And social media has made it a lot easier. Yes. Yes, when we go through and come up with the sort and the goodbye and the keep pile, there's a lot of things in the goodbye pile that could be liquidated. Yeah, so like we at Smooth Transitions, we've got connections with the local shelters. And so certain things we know the shelters are looking for, pots and pans, dishes, linens, and we take them directly to the shelters. There's also things that have value that we will say to our clients, this is something that you probably could sell. And there are, if it's a very high-end items, we have high-end auction houses that we work with. If you have a house full of items, there's a lot of it depends in the whole answer to your question. It depends, let me put this thing down. It depends includes things like how much is there, the quantity, the variety, and the quality. And if there is enough, we do a lot of online auctions where the item stays in your home, it gets sold through the internet, and then the buyers will actually come pick it up on one day in one chunk of time, and your house basically goes from being full to empty in that one day. We've had realtors that are shocked when we're doing that because they come at the end of the day and they're like, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe the house was going to be empty. And it is. So the online auction is one direction that we go a lot. That is more for cost-effectively emptying the house than for bringing a lot of money into your pocket. The higher-end auction is if you have really nice things that could go to the higher-end auction. Most of the higher-end auction houses want something to be valued at least $600 or $700 before they will agree to take it because they have limited inventory as they build for their auctions. There's also estate sales people ask about. Estate sales are also a good avenue for selling things. What people don't realize is that most estate sales, the people that run the estate sales want the home to have a gross sellables of $10,000 or more. And most average homes, they kind of fall in, if you sold everything that wasn't nailed to the wall, you're kind of in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. So the estate sale people, they can pick and choose. They do them only on weekends. There's only so many nice weekends during the year. And there's enough people out there that they can say yes to one and no to another, and they still stay in business. And then people sometimes ask about yard sales. And I tell them, if you like the experience of bartering, speaking to people, and getting rid of a few items on a nice sunny day in the summer, then I tell people, okay, fine, go ahead and do a yard sale. But it's a lot of work to get the stuff outside, to get the stuff ready, to deal with the people who come in with, like a big giant wagon full of stuff that they just picked through and chose. And then you have prices on every single thing and you add it up and it's like, $50 and they say, well, you take 10? And it's like, well, I'm giving it away at 50. It's a little insulting to say 10. Some people will say yes, some people will say no, but it's just, if it floats your boat to go through that kind of experience, then I tell people go for it. But for the most part, if you're making thousands of dollars in a yard sale, then you probably could have made more in a different method. And if you're making $300 in a yard sale after sitting out for an entire weekend, then, what are you valuing your time at? So, it depends on what you'd like to do. And I don't say no to anybody who wants to do it, but I also point out the pros and cons of it.
Talk about sorting books, especially valuable books.
So books are an interesting category. There are some books that still hold value. First editions, books that are from the 1700s, some into the 1800s. But as books became easier to make, and as the internet made books less interesting to own, the market for books has greatly decreased. So while there are people out there who do look for and buy unique books, if you just have novels, dictionaries, encyclopedias, those, you can't even find schools that take them now to cut them up to make dioramas anymore because the world has changed. If kids want pictures, they print it off the internet and then they use that. So there's a wonderful organization out of Cambridge called More Than Words that does take book donations. A lot of DPWs actually have a bin for putting books in for them, and they teach at-risk teens how to run businesses, and they do things with the books like selling them, or sometimes they make craft projects out of them. And so that's why I like the organization. It's well run. Its purpose is to help at-risk teens, and it does things with books, CDs, and audio CDs as well as DVDs. So that's a direction to go. But selling books, if you have 300 books, I'd say, donate them to your library for the next book sale. Unless you've got signed first editions or you've got old first editions of, known authors.
Art books that are out of print.
Pardon me?
Art books that are out of print.
Just because it's out of print doesn't necessarily mean someone's going to pay a significant amount for it. And even beautiful coffee table books, people used to pay $50, $60 for a coffee table book. And I'm sure you've seen it if you've gone to any of your library sales, they're $2 at the library sale, so the library can then buy the books they want for the library. Gentleman in the back.
What's your experience with chandeliers?
He asked what my experience was with chandeliers. So, besides the fact that my son, when he was 2 years old, was fascinated with the word and went running around shouting chandelier every time he saw one, pretty much the issue with chandeliers is that you need an electrician to remove them or install them. So when it comes to possibly donating them, a lot of the donation places would prefer not having them because it needs an electrician to install or check even if it has all its parts to it. So I have not had a lot of positive experiences with chandeliers. So music and music books do actually have a market out there, because a lot of the older sheet music you can't get anymore. So there is a market for sheet music. It's better than the market for books. Pardon me?
Like Peg in my heart. I have the original.
Yeah, so you just have to find the right place for it, but there is a market for sheet music. Oh, it's not a specific place unless you know, if you know of a specific place, but I'm not talking a specific place, I'm just talking that there are people out there who buy it, not businesses, yeah. It's mostly individuals, yes? It really, I hate to keep saying it, but it depends on what the sheet music is. So, but there is a market for older sheet music. Well, the black and white pictures are designed to last for 100 years plus. They last longer if they are in a book and not seeing light. The same with the colored pictures, only the colored pictures are more designed to last for, 20, 30 years. The color that goes first, you might notice the blues tend to fade out. I worked for Kodak for a while, and and they were in tough competition with Fuji over the fact that Fuji figured out if you took a Kodak print and stuck it in the window, in 6 weeks the blue would fade out if the sun was shining on it. And so they marketed the bejeebers out of that piece of knowledge and gained market while Kodak lost market. If it's in a book, not seeing the light, it lasts longer, but that's why some people end up having older photos like retouched and colorized because the colors have faded. That's New Life.
Pardon me?
New Life Furniture Bank.
It is New Life,
Yeah.
yes, thank you, but, and then, when you go to the RDF in town, we're told that we're not supposed to throw out clothes, stuff that's really had it. Throw out clothes or shoes, or mattresses, you're supposed to, what are we supposed to do with those?
The mattresses are the most difficult, and basically you end up getting the haulers and you pay a surcharge to throw out mattresses. It's something Massachusetts made an edict a year ago in November that no more mattresses without a surcharge. And there's a place in Framingham that actually recycles mattresses, that if you can get your mattress to them, they charge a minimal fee. Everywhere else, it can be anywhere from $75 to $120 per mattress to have it hauled away and disposed of properly. So, I was just saying, because I think a lot of it stemmed from concern over bed bugs. Yeah, I mean, if it's beyond donation, there are a few places that do textile recycling. And those are for the things that are beyond hope. If it's sheets and blankets and towels, they can also go to the local animal shelters. So you just have to get creative about what directions things can go to. Yeah, what's happened since COVID is that a lot of places that used to come pick up everything from your home, they were run by volunteers, and so they've reduced the amount of pickups that they do because they're finding it harder to get volunteers, and sometimes they're limiting their volunteers to garage or driveway pickups, and they won't send them above the first floor in a home. So you have to, again, understand what it is that you're trying to do and then find the right avenues to do it. So it's something, because we deal with all the time, I probably have an answer to each of your questions, but the answer is going to be different depending on the circumstances, the items, the location, and everything else. So it's not something I can give a quick overview of here. So art truly is in the eye of the beholder. We've had artists that we've basically sold whole collections of. And again, things that you think are worth more and things you think are worth less, it's all out the window depending on who's looking at it. The key with art is whether or not it's signed, whether or not it's an original as opposed to a numbered print, and how known is or was the artist. Because if you can establish a provenance, if you can establish a known value from people out there who have actually bought the items and it's documented, then you have a hope of trying to sell it for more. If you don't have that, or if it's someone who was doing art and selling it at the local craft fair or selling it at a farmer's market, then as beautiful as the art might be, it's only going to be sold at a high price if you find someone who really likes it. So that's where. There are places to donate it to, but if you want to actually sell it, you need to have that documentation and the backup on it. There is such difficulty getting rid of pianos that there's an actual online site called the Piano Adoption Site where people post their pianos for free in hopes that someone will come and pick it up for them. I tell people, even if you find someone who's willing to pay you $1 for your piano, you do a happy dance and you say, yes, please. Yeah, if you can, anytime you can find someone to even take it for free, it's a savings, because otherwise it's going to cost you to have someone pick it up and take it away. Sad to say, but that's the case. Now, if you have a high-end, like grand piano that they only make 10 of each year and it's worth $30,000, that's a whole nother story. But if you have a run-of-the-mill upright, there's not a lot of directions for them. Churches seem to be full up on pianos, and schools seem to be full up on pianos, and people who have children who are about to take piano lessons buy a keyboard. So, even though it doesn't have the same touch and feel, but that's what they do. There are some buyers who will say, pick what you want and you can leave the rest. And they price their offer accordingly, but sometimes you have to weigh the offer against the convenience. That's more a real estate agent question, but I've worked with people who have said, all I have to do is pack up what I'm taking and figure out what I can take, and I can leave everything behind. And I say, great. Yeah, including the piano, yeah. So, somehow, some way, it all comes out in the wash, I'm sure, but I don't know how to assess that. If someone offers you $50,000 less, but you don't have to do anything, is it worth it? That's something that, you have to decide. I don't know. Sure. Any more questions? Yes?
Does this mean you're only 29 years old?
So my son turned 29 this year. And he called me on the phone and he said, Mom, would you mind terribly becoming 30? And I said, sure, why? He says, well, it just feels strange being the same age as my mother. So, oh yeah, I mean, my staff gets training on packing, sorting. There's a sequence that they go through. People who just start with me start off with unpacking, because that way they can see how everything was packed and learn how we put things away. The difference, one question people ask us a lot is, what's different about you guys packing versus the movers packing? And one difference is that we label everything. You know, you don't have 20 boxes that have K's on it because they came out of your kitchen. You know, we know what's in each, we know which box has the dishes and the silverware and everything else. On the flip side, we unpack and put things away. When movers say they're going to give you white glove unpacking services, what it means is they will empty the boxes to the first available flat surface. So it'll be on your counters, on the floor, on the tabletops, but they're not going to say, oh, well, here's the dishwasher, and let's put the plates right above it so you don't have to walk around the kitchen with the heavy plates, and let's put the glasses near the sink because that's where it makes sense. And so that thought process we put into it when we're moving people, and if we pack it, we can unpack it a little faster because we know how we packed it. And then just as a point of information, one of my pet peeves is people who pack in bubble wrap and then tape it. It takes a lot of time to unpack taped bubble wrap. So just keep that in mind if you do any packing yourself. It takes like 4 times the amount of time than it would take if it was just packed in paper and safe and we were unpacking it. Question?
I just want to make a point about pianos, because I used to work with pianos, and I have been involved with buying and selling pianos, and people very often think that the piano is going to be their windfall, it's worth a lot. And that's the first thing that you should think about selling, because it takes a long time to find somebody. It may take a long time. And if you're stuck with that piano in your house, you have to pay to get rid of it. You have to pay someone to take it out of your house.
Yeah, we've done enough online auctions where everything starts at $1 and had pianos that did not even sell for $1. That, you know, the higher end ones you have a better chance of doing something with, but and it's tough when you feel like you have a high-end piano, but, you know, people know which are the higher-end pianos, like the Steinways and even some of the newer Yamahas are higher-end. Any other questions? All right, thank you.